What's up, guys? If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Also, please smash that like button on the video and enjoy the show. Let's go back to the Middle East a little bit because I put a pin in the Iran, China, Russia thing.
Oh, yeah.
This is something I really need explained to me further because the way I understand it, there's some serious developments there over the past year or so where there's almost like there hasn't been like a tripartite pact or something.
Right.
But there's some serious economic and therefore geopolitical interests that are now exchanging hands to separate literally like East and West.
Yeah. So, Alessi, will you fact check me on this? I'm pretty sure that China brokered diplomatic relations between Iran and Saudi Arabia. And I want to say they did that in the last 2 years. If you can just fact check me on that. Iran, China.
And Saudi Arabia. Hold on, go back.
Yeah, Beijing brokered.
Iran and Saudi Arabia announced last Friday a Chinese brokered deal to restore relations. There you go.
Bingo.
2023.
So, nice. Brain
Nice
working.
job.
Brain is working. So now what that means is, think about what we were just talking about. The conflict in the Middle East, the big competition in the Middle East is between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Sunni domination versus Shia crescent. China was able to broker an agreement between the two to work together diplomatically, which had never been done before, 2023. So it means our entire lives up until 2023, Iran and Saudi Arabia did not recognize each other diplomatically. That's just, it's crazy to me. This is not like post-World War II. This is the whole development of, like, this is the Industrial Revolution, the Information Revolution. This is like...
It's forever.
This is like forever.
Yeah.
Anyways, so what we're seeing here is ever since the West, ever since the United States essentially pushed NATO into heavy economic sanctions against Russia to penalize them or push them out of Ukraine, what we've seen from that effort is that all of the Western sanctions and the seizing of Russian assets that were in sovereign banks, right? All of that activity has only worked to boost the value of Russian currency, to give Putin a valid platform to say that his war is not against Ukraine, it's against the West, it's against the United States, it's against NATO, right? So all of our efforts have essentially helped Russia to economically increase their impact. Simultaneously, Russia still had resources, valid resources like oil and energy to export. But now the United States and Russia and the West cut off all of their buying power, which meant that Russia could now sell more to other developing nations, a la China, Iran, and India. India is in a really funky place because India is an ally of the United States, but also works completely independently and pragmatically, like we talked about, because they don't care about whether you import their ideals or not. They have a growing population. They need petrol. Russian petrol is available, gets there faster, gets there cheaper than anything that America doesn't sanction. So let's just go ahead and take that route. So what you end up having is an economic boom in Russia. You have China, who's trying to distance itself from any kind of relationship with the United States at all. Plus, it wants to boost its economy using Russian resources. And then you have Iran, who wants nothing to do with the United States, but also wants to boost its resources, and it has trade to do. So it partners up with essentially everybody who's geographically closer, ideologically independent, and they have a common enemy, which is the United States. And that's how you end up having, over the last 3 years, ever since the Ukraine invasion, you've had this increasing proximity effect for everybody who's always hated us. North Korea cooperating with China, cooperating with Russia, cooperating with Iran, and then they're even folding in countries that have long time been our allies, but are more pragmatic because they have real needs and they don't need our ideological policing. So then you have Pakistan, you have India, you have even Bulgaria and fucking, there's another NATO country. I just lost it right now. There's another NATO country in southern Europe that's also siding with essentially the new axis of resistance that's expanding, right? And all of those countries have no problem exchanging practical purposes, practical value without having to force any sort of ideological restraints on each other. China's not trying to make Russia communist. Russia's not trying to make Iran bow to Putin's power.
Right.
They're just like, hey, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. And at the end, the giant, we can take him down together.
Is there anything that can be done regardless of administration, just like in general from a diplomacy standpoint, to kind of unring the bell that seems to have been rung starting with the 2022 Ukraine-Russia war, where it's this clear divide, like separation?
So there have been clear bell rings. I think that's a great example or a great phrase. COVID rang a very clear bell.
Oh, yeah.
If you think about what happened following COVID, the whole world woke up to the fact that all the supply chains of the world were going through China. China had worked very, very hard throughout the entire 20-year global war on terror. China had worked very hard not to participate in the GWAT, because China didn't participate in the GWAT, but instead...
Global war on terror.
But instead, they focused on creating economic ties all across the world through trade and manufacturing and whatever else. So our first big warning bell happened when COVID struck and we all realized you and I can't get sneakers in the United States because China's not shipping.
Right.
But then when Russia invaded Ukraine, another strong warning bell went off. And that warning bell had nothing to do with Russia expansion into Europe, even though that's all we heard about. The real warning bell there was your money is tied to American banks and America will take it from you. And once that bell rang, that's when you saw the Chinese flood the market by taking their dollars out, putting yuan in, diversifying their accounts. You saw all sorts of countries all over the world say, if America can do this to Russia, and if America can muscle NATO countries into doing this to Russia, then they can do it to us too. So everybody started diversifying their portfolios out of the US dollar, out of American banks, into foreign banks and foreign currency where it's more liquid.
Yes.
Because now we show that we don't treat your money like it's yours if it's in our banks. If we don't like you, we will freeze it. And then we will take the interest. And then we will go ahead and say that we have a legal ground to steal your money from you and give it to your opponent, which is also what the United States is trying to do, that even the UN is saying is illegal. The only reason the United States hasn't been able to do that is because the UN has said, that's actually kind of fucked up. You can't just take Russian money and give it to Ukraine. We'll let you take the interest and give it to Ukraine, but you can't just take their money and give it to Ukraine. So all these bells have been going off, which to the developing world, there's 167-ish countries in the world. We're one. We're the superpower. The other 166 are all developing at different levels of development, trying to become a power, a superpower if they can. Those 166 other countries are choosing who they want to do business with, what currency they want to do business in, who they trust, who they don't trust, how much anonymity they want to maintain in their bank accounts. And unfortunately, they have learned that the United States is not going to help them.
How much, because the other question, the other country that always comes up in this because of the proximity and GDP, obviously, is China, right? And then their huge population. But how much are they also getting a little bit fucked because of COVID, in the sense that so many countries, including us, around the world realized, like you said, how tied we were to their supply chains, that we did, and other countries did diversify those supply chains to other countries?
It was only really Western countries that had the ability to diversify their supply chain.
But that's still a lot,
It's
right?
still a lot. Yeah, no, it's still a lot. But let's also be very transparent here.
Okay.
COVID happened in 2019.
20.
Excuse me, 2020.
Technically 20.
Either way.
Yeah.
Either way. Shutdowns happened in 2020. Economic crisis because of those shutdowns through 2020 into 2021, right? Businesses start seeking alternate supply chains in 2021 to support business in 2022. How many years do you think businesses are going to pay 20% more for their supply chain before they're kind of like, let's go back to the way it was and let's have a supply chain that goes through China?
I mean, I know the answer to that question, but I'll ask another question to it. Who says they're paying 20% more in countries like Bangladesh?
It's true. They're just accepting human rights abuses, and
right.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm not arguing that. Of
so
course
you can see, like, we're in a position now where change is the economic pressures and the political pressures of finding a supply chain alternative is going to get less and less. to the place where in the future, I can easily see 10 years from now, we're right back to the same place we were pre-COVID, where 95%, 99% of supply chains touch one country, a place like China or a place like India. India is really looking to become the new China because China is looking to become the new tech hub of the world. So we're going to just fucking repeat history all over again.
Yeah.
And that's because it makes sense globally. It makes sense logistically. It makes sense socially. Because imagine a Kamala Harris presidency where she then targets human rights abuses in countries that are supplying American businesses, so that American businesses now get either taxed or fined or penalized if they have a logistics supply chain that goes through Bangladesh. Now those countries are going to be like, well, shit, where can I go that is okay? Oh, India. Sweet. Here we go.
Bustamante 2024. Do that, slave labor. You do that shit. You understand me?
I'm just saying, like, we always choose what to put our myopic focus on politically. Like, we're going to focus on this. We're going to focus on that. And we forget that there's a whole chessboard in front of us.
Thank you for watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.